Okay, with Godzilla Minus One only a few weeks away from releasing in America, it's time for the geniuses over at Dangerville to fill us in on everything we need to know. All right. I'm so freaking excited for this movie.
What's up, residents? It's your Mayor of Dangerville, Alistair, back once again with some amazing Minus One news, and it's that Trailer 2 has officially dropped.
I bet it's amazing news.
This isn't just a small teaser, this is a full-length trailer. And if you thought the previous promos were any good, this is so much better. We get a better look at the atomic breath, scenes of war.
The atomic breath is absolutely the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Let's not waste any more time. Let's check out Takashi Yamazaki's Godzilla Minus One.
There's dorsal space popping out.
We get an extended look at the destroyed boat, and one of the characters says, "What did this?" As we get an even closer look at the destruction. The middle of the boat has been completely blasted through, and the hull has been torn open.
It's gonna be hard to sail that thing,
film,
you know?
Since none of them have any idea what Godzilla actually is. But we as the audience know fully well what did this. And then it cuts to that amazing shot of Godzilla swimming beneath the boat, indicating that he's the one that caused this wreck. We then get some shots of the destroyed Tokyo, most likely after Godzilla's first attack, and one of the characters says, "The future of this country is in our hands."
Everyone looks so serious in this photo.
Nagasaki, as well as Godzilla rising up to destroy Tokyo, it's safe to say they're fed up of being powerless.
Damn.
And then we get some shots of the aftermath of the attack. We can see this city has been flattened, and there's huge craters in the ground, almost as if an atomic bomb was dropped exactly here. That's the level of devastation Godzilla can cause.
My mind is flooding with so many ideas right now for what could be what.
Which is just a nice effect. It says "a new reign," which implies that Godzilla may actually be the victor here. Maybe it won't be a happy ending this time around.
I hope Godzilla wins so freaking bad, dude.
Rising out of the smoke, and it just looks so good. We then see more shots of these civilians running, and in the background we see what looks to be a bus or a train carriage being thrown into the crowd.
Japanese people have to deal with so much insane stuff.
The CGI here is really good. It's really convincing. Like, this looks like a post-World War II image.
It does. Look at all their old school luggage. They got all the 40s luggage.
Tokyo looks nothing like World War II Tokyo, so the team here have done an amazing job. We then get an extended shot of one of our leads, played by Minami Hamabe, looking out the window at an oncoming Godzilla.
She
looks to be sat on the train, so she might experience a first-hand attack from Godzilla. And this image is just apocalyptic. It's almost hellish, seeing this giant monster chasing after so many scared civilians.
Oh my god, he is chasing after the people, isn't he? That's adorable.
To torment them.
That's
and
so
also,
funny.
If you look in the background, you can see the clock tower, which is important because I know some people have said that the shots of a destroyed Tokyo from earlier are actually from the Tokyo fire bombings. But since the clock tower is actually destroyed in some of those earlier shots, we can see that Godzilla is the one that actually causes that destruction.
That's crazy how well that pieces together.
Godzilla, not the fire bombings. We then get a shot from a cast member who I think is Aoki, looking upon what I think may be his destroyed house. Everything in the vicinity has been scorched, possibly by Godzilla's atomic breath. The chances are that Godzilla shot at something a few hundred meters away, and the shockwave released a blast of intense heat, which obviously flattened and scorched these buildings. In this shot, we see a girl blowing on a wind turbine, whilst another character looks upon her and smiles, which is really nice to see that we're not only going to get some brutal monster action, but some really personal, emotional scenes to really help us connect to these characters.
You gotta make yourself emotionally attached to them before they get blown away in atomic vapor to add some emotion.
And how together we try to get through any hardships. There might not be any monsters in this scene, but it's just as important. We then see some drawings that the little girl has likely done.
Wow, that kid sucks at drawing.
With the small face being her, and the two next to her being her parents. And then we see it's Kamiki Ryunosuke's character looking upon the drawings with his child, which is a big
That's a beautiful looking dude right there, not gonna lie.
But this really emphasizes that we want this character to survive. But considering the shots we've seen in earlier trailers, I don't know if he will. And he puts her to bed, and she sleeps tight, and I'm sure there's nothing that's gonna come along, and oh my god, it's Godzilla! Yes, Godzilla attacks the train carriage,
Almost got
and we
me.
get
Almost
a new
scared me
shot
right
from
there.
the interior of the carriage, and we can see Minami's character clinging on for dear life as Godzilla picks up and chomps the train in half. This is such a terrifying shot that harks back to the 1954 original, except more personal and, of course, higher quality.
This is why Japan developed bullet trains, so this doesn't happen anymore.
I literally have no idea how she's going to get out of this. And in the next shot, we see Godzilla roaring at the mushroom cloud, which I'm beginning to think is the aftermath of his atomic breath.
I think she legit may just die in this scene.
Previous trailers, and just listen to his roar.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Is exactly what you'd expect a giant monster to sound like. This shot is just incredible. I can't stress that enough.
He's killing a lot of people.
Cutting the buildings in half with his tail, and then we get this new shot of 4 Japanese destroyers heading towards Godzilla. Now, this is interesting because the fact they're using Japanese destroyers instead of American battleships gives me the impression that the US will have less of a role than we originally thought.
That's for the best. America always plays such a big role.
Can stand up on its own 2 feet, which might help make it seem actually less political. Obviously, it's going to be a very political film, but involving the Americans less was probably a good road to go. Especially if you're trying to market it in America, you probably don't want to make them all look evil.
Honestly, not gonna lie, I personally love looking evil. Maybe not love it, but I don't mind it. I know Russians love it as well. Russians were the bad guy in every 80s movie and most 90s movies, and they freaking loved it. Being the bad guy is awesome.
We then get more of these amazing shots of Godzilla following this boat, and I think they're trying to kill him because we can see they drop into the ocean what looks like a sea mine, which they detonate using a hand device, which blows up in the ocean, which probably isn't going to hurt Godzilla much.
Honestly,
we then see Godzilla throwing the boat into the city, and then we get this beautiful shot of Godzilla roaring.
I was like, maybe it worked out for him, but then the boat goes flying.
Tokyo, and he looks so good. He looks exactly like you think a modern interpretation of the Heisei design would look like.
He really
Although
does.
I'm still wondering why he has those elbow spikes. It makes you think that he's going to fight something, though these trailers give no indication there's another monster in the film.
Those are awesome.
I'm intrigued to see more about that. It could just be a side effect of the mutation. We'll just have to wait and see.
I legit hope there's no new monsters in this movie, just Godzilla.
More tank battles. This is something that, in my opinion, the MonsterVerse has been lacking, and no one does it better than Toho. Shin Godzilla had tank battles, and it was so cool looking. So obviously the military here is going to learn that tanks are
so helpless against Godzilla. Yeah.
Nonetheless, this is the kind of war stuff I've been wanting from a Godzilla film for so long. Although I suppose that the military already know in the MonsterVerse that tanks are useless, but here they have no idea. These are one of the most powerful weapons they have at their disposal, and we're about to witness how they're completely useless.
Honestly, he's making some good points right now.
We actually see them making impact with Godzilla, and smoke fills the air as he's clouded in dust and ash. This actually looks connected to the shot we saw earlier where Godzilla rises out of the smoke, which obviously tells us that this whole attack is futile. We then see more of Ryosuke screaming as Godzilla spins around and whacks the building with his tail, knocking it over, plunging these reporters to their deaths.
Not gonna lie, the other reason I think that girl dies is because that dude screaming right there, that's like, you just killed my loved one scream. There's nothing you can do to make someone scream like that except killing their loved ones.
We then get this new shot of Godzilla rising out of the ocean and roaring as he seems to stand next to a destroyer. This may very well be connected to the destroyer we see in the opening that Godzilla completely obliterated.
It got
Godzilla
destroyed.
Here is likely about to rise up and completely destroy it with his atomic breath. And then we see what is likely a continuation of that shot as Godzilla punches
balls?
the side of the destroyer. And the cannons point at him and open fire, and explosions fill the air. This likely only pissed off Godzilla more, and he may next use his atomic breath to completely obliterate the ship. And next up we get what is probably the most interesting shot in the trailer, and it's people looking up at Godzilla, but they're standing still, as if confused as to what he's doing.
Oh my God.
When it cuts back to Godzilla, we can see the dorsal plates are actually growing from his spines, glowing blue. Now this is obviously connected to the shot we saw in the previous teaser, where one of the dorsal plates grows out of his tail. What it looks like is happening is Godzilla is charging his atomic breath, and the dorsal plates are growing shooting out of his skin, almost as if a cannon is being
Getting
loaded.
a literal loading
Each of them
screen for the
individually
atomic breath would be
protrudes
so
from his
scary.
back. And I don't know about you, but it looks really painful. I'd hate to be Godzilla in this situation. You can see his skin pulling and tearing as each dorsal plate rips from his back.
I don't know, it almost looks relieving, like taking a giant dump multiple times down your freaking spine.
This is actually kind of a development on how the MonsterVerse Godzilla actually performs his atomic breath, because in that, the light simply glows from his tail to the tip of his head. But in this, they take it to the next level. Not only does it glow from the tip of his tail to his head, but now it also grows out of him, which just looks disgusting, but I love it. We then get a version of the...
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense, because that's why his dorsal spikes aren't like vulnerable to taking damage unless they're actively being used. It's kind of genius.
A title card that is more rustic and vintage this time around. I'm really liking the way they're doing it here. And then we cut back to Godzilla as his dorsal plates cock in and he blasts his atomic breath, confirming that this shot from the earlier trailers wasn't an atomic bomb, but in fact, his atomic breath, which is just even more terrifying because he has that power at his disposal at any time he wants, which is just terrifying.
Damn, dude, Japan can't catch a freaking break.
Super quick here. It actually took me out of the trailer a little because obviously no giant monster should move that fast. So I'm really hoping it was just sped up for the trailer so they can make it seem like just a quick surprise.
That is weird right there. Looks like he's having a
seems
seizure.
Actually funny because Jacob and I theorized about this last week in a video where Godzilla's dorsal plates growing out of him would actually go in on themselves as if you're pressing the trigger of a gun, which is exactly what's happening here. His dorsal plates crash in and his atomic breath shoots from his mouth, which is just such a unique way of doing the atomic breath. This
so beautiful.
Was epic. A lot of the story and plot points are still hidden, so I don't know everything that's going to happen in the film going into it, but it still shows plenty of new scenes to get me excited. The CGI looks amazing, the environment, the setting, the music, the sound design, it all looks really top-notch.
This trailer review is hyping me the hell up right now, man.
That were in charge of recreating a post-war Japan, because it looks so good. It honestly seems more authentic than some big blockbusters I've seen from America, where they're trying to recreate World War II environments, but it doesn't quite work. But this, they fully changed Tokyo, which has to be a mammoth of a task.
Honestly, he's so right. This one looks like the most vintage post-World War II footage I've ever seen, and I'm telling you, it's because of the suitcases. Like, there's like thousands of people running with these vintage Captain America 1950s suitcases. That's what does it for me.
I don't even want to think about how they've done it. Obviously, the film is already out in Japan, so be careful for spoilers, because I'm sure they're going to be hitting the internet very soon.
So unfair. Stuff doesn't just release all the same day all over the planet.
December,
every movie does that.
Until then, there will be no spoilers from us, so you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, today is a huge day for Godzilla because it's Godzilla's 69th anniversary. We've had this trailer. We have a Godzilla vs. Megalon animation to go through.
Oh, so amazing.
Jet Jaguar, and even new Monarch Legacy of Monsters footage. The only thing that's missing is a new trailer for Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. But I'm sure that day is going to come sooner than later. But what did you think about the new -1 trailer?
Dude, what a beautiful, freaking amazing time to be a kaiju fan. Holy Jesus. This trailer review was awesome. I'm so freaking excited for -1. I feel like there's still some secrets. I really hope there's no other kaiju in it. It's just about Godzilla versus humanity. Just man versus titanic creature, basically. And I'm really happy America and everyone's staying out of it. So it's just back to Japan versus invading kaiju. I'm gonna go discuss Godzilla -1 stuff in my Discord, because holy hell. And of course, subscribe to Dangerville, because these guys are freaking legends, and they deserve all the love. That was crazy. All right, see you next time.